Ride along each week as we share proven strategies to strengthen your business, energize your team, and create the business success you've been dreaming about. And now, here's your host, Rich Allen.
How well do you truly know your ideal customer? Welcome to the Ultimate Business Tune-Up Podcast, where our one and only goal is to help you tune up your business so that you can have the long-lasting success and fulfillment that comes from owning a solid, profitable, and sustainable business. Each week, we're going to dive in deep on a single topic related to either improving your business itself, improving your team engagement, or improving your relationship with your customers. This week, our topic is one that often gets lost in the panic and rush to grow our top-line revenues: knowing your ideal customer. Knowing your ideal customer is important for two very specific reasons. The first is because when we're communicating and sharing what we do and who we're doing it for, some folks call that our value proposition, we want to be sure we're speaking directly and clearly to those we want to buy our products or service. Now, if you've ever been in a networking group or spent time meeting a new business contact, you've probably been asked, who's your ideal customer? Far too often, when I ask this question, I get the answer of anyone who can afford to pay me. But honestly, that's not true, and thinking that way doesn't help you build a strong business. It's a cop-out that undermines any marketing message that's intended to make you sound useful, above average, and special. Today, I want to help you fix that. The second reason this topic is important is to help us identify those potential customers that we want to avoid. Let's face it, we're all guilty of working with some customers that we'd rather not deal with. I know some of you are quietly saying to yourself, "What? I don't do that." But my experience working with hundreds of business owners makes me say that you may be kidding yourself. I'll be the first to admit that from time to time, I lose sight of my ideal customer, and I drift into working closely with someone who's difficult, challenging, or someone I just don't connect well with. Every time this happens, I pull out my list titled The Attributes of My Ideal Customer, and sure enough, when I compare my list to the individual who's causing me headaches, I find that the two don't match up at all. But if that's the case, you might ask, why would you do it? And the answer is probably the same reason that you've done it time and time again. I had the capacity in my business, and the revenue or income that the customer represented would sure be nice to have. But so many times it turns out that we'd gladly give back the revenue in exchange for our peace of mind, our sanity, or the relief it would bring to our team members. Have you ever felt that way? I'd be surprised if you haven't. Now, today I want to give you a pro tip on how to identify your ideal customer, to make your marketing messages more clear and compelling, and to make sure that you never have to work with those customers who are not a good fit with your business. My pro tip is a two-part process that I'd encourage you to take the time to complete. Let me explain it to you. Part one of the process will require a 2x2 grid. To make this easy, just get out a single sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle, and then draw a line across the middle. This will give you a blank piece of paper with 4 quadrants. We do this because when any customer is looking to buy a product or find a service, they're thinking about one or more of these 4 quadrants of thought. Picture it this way. The horizontal axis, the line going across your page, represents whether we are moving away from something, you can write away on the left side of your page, or towards something, write toward on the right side of your page. The vertical axis, the line going from the top to the bottom of your page, represents whether something is real, you can write that at the top, or if something is imaginary, you can write that at the bottom of the page. Now, essentially, most all of our thoughts, especially when it comes to making a purchase decision, will fall into one of these four quadrants. Something we want to move away from that's real, those are things that are causing us pain. This was represented by the upper left quadrant of your chart. Something that we want to move away from that's imaginary is a fear. And this is represented by the lower left quadrant of your chart. Something we want to move toward that is real is a desire. And this is represented by the upper right quadrant of your chart. And lastly, something we want to move toward that's imaginary is a dream. This is represented by the lower right quadrant of your chart. So if you've done this correctly, the four quadrants of your chart will be labeled pains, fears, desires, and dreams. These are the four primary motivators for any person who's wanting to make a purchase of any kind. Are you with me? I hope so. This is really important. If you need to stop and rewind this to get it down, I'd strongly recommend it. But I promise you, this exercise will benefit you in many significant and important ways. Okay, once you have your four-quadrant grid prepared, step 2 of the process is to find a place to sit where you can put an empty chair in front of you. I know this may sound a bit corny, but stick with me on this. You've got some important work to do to complete this step of the process, but to do it well, the setting needs to be just right. Once you have your empty chair in front of you, I want you to mentally seat your ideal customer in that chair. Now, I don't want you to put a hypothetical ideal customer in the chair. I want you to put the specific person who is the ideal representation of your ideal customer in that chair. Let me give you an example. I started doing business coaching because I wanted to help small business owners be more successful. It wasn't just a whim or a default decision. I had something very specific in mind. I had grown up working for my father as he started his own small business. He was 36 years old when he started his business, and he had a dream. He had a big goal. He wanted to build a business and leave a legacy for his 12 children. Yes, I come from a large family. I've got 11 brothers and sisters. And my dad, when he was 36, made a bold decision to stop working multiple jobs for a paycheck, trying to take care of his large and still growing family, and instead to start his own business and build his own future. Myself and my older brother were my dad's first employees, and I use that term loosely because we were actually just unpaid workers, just doing our part to help earn a living for our family. As I worked closely with my dad, I became intrigued with what it took to be successful as a small business owner. I watched my dad work like a dog for years. He struggled to make the business work, and in the end, he ended up losing his marriage, missing watching his kids grow up, and in the end became an alcoholic. My dad's experience is what's motivated me to learn, study, and experience being a business owner so that I could use what I've learned to help others who have a dream of owning their own business and leaving a legacy for their families and helping them avoid the pains and pitfalls that my dad endured. I share this with you so that you can understand that when I do this exercise, the person who I put in the empty chair in front of me is my dad. I just don't put some random business owner in the chair. I put my dad in the chair. When I think about my dad and I get out my 4-quadrant chart, the one we made in part 1 of this process, the one with the 4 sections labeled pains, fears, desires, and dreams, I can fill out each section with what I know with certainty that my dad was thinking and feeling. When I write his thoughts on the page, I speak in his language. I use the words he would use, and I emphasized what was most important to him. I want you to do the same thing. Think about the person, that's someone you know well, who represents your ideal customer, and put them in your empty chair. Then start writing down their pains, their fears, their desires, and their dreams. This exercise is not about you. It's not to define what you want. It's to get real clear on what your ideal customer wants. If you do this well, this will take you some time. In fact, you'll want to revisit and refresh this quite frequently. Each time you think about the person you put in your empty chair, you'll likely add something to your own chart. Over time, you'll probably need a single page for each of the 4 areas of pains, fears, desires, and dreams. Now let me do a quick check-in with you. Are you tracking with me? I hope so. This is so critically important, and here's why. When you meet someone who may be a customer and they ask what you do, you can now pick something off your chart and say that you help your customers do that very specific thing. The person you're talking to will either get it or they won't. If they get it, they likely represent your ideal customer. If they don't get it, they're probably someone you'd rather not waste your time with. When you do a marketing campaign, the words, phrases, or concepts you use in your marketing should come directly from your chart, which will help you attract others who think and feel just like your ideal customer. When you're in a selling situation and your prospect asks you what they'll get or how you can help, guess where the answer should come from? Yep, your chart. You see, everything gets much clearer and much more defined when you're speaking and thinking like the person you placed in your empty chair. I know that every time I speak in the language and terms that I heard directly from my dad on a regular basis, my ideal customer hears the words, feels the emotion, and knows that I can help them. That's what I want for you, to have the clarity and focus on your ideal customer so that it simply pours out of you when you speak about your business and why you do what you do. I hope that helps. If you're confused about anything I shared today, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask for more clarity. I'd be glad to walk you through this very important process to help you know your ideal customer better. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to discuss your purpose. You won't want to miss it. Meanwhile, if you have a question, a suggestion, or would just like to connect, shoot me an email at rich@tourtoprofit.com. Now go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Business Tune-Up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, find more resources at tourtoprofit.com and connect with Rich by sending a message to rich@tourtoprofit.com. Until next time, ride hard.